during the playoff run last year at Mandarin, 8A football in Florida is pretty decent. And you're taking a team, I think, that had 4 losses, I believe, going in. Nobody thought they were going to make a run. Absolutely nobody. And from week 1 of the playoffs all the way through, we would come in here on Sunday morning, we would throw, and then we would watch film. And it was, we want to study the opponent. We didn't watch his film. We wanted to study the opponent and see what was going on. And it got to the point where I was like, Carson, I've got to go, man. Like, my wife is expecting me at home. We've been here 4 hours. And it was not just the, hey, coach, what are they doing? It was the conversation. So I watch film with a lot of our guys, and it's usually me talking, right? This is what they're doing, drawing it up. Here's what. It was a true conversation with Carson. It was, okay, well, coach, what if we did this? What if we did that? And in his mind, by the time he got to practice on Monday, that team was already beat. And you watch the film from that playoff run, there's no indecisiveness. Not anywhere. They could have scored as much as they wanted to in some of those games.
What was I heard about this throw he made in the state championship game. It's like sort of like Ridley, the one Jake Fromm hit in the SEC championship game, where it's like you got 6 inches if you can put it there.
Well, I've got, look, chills. Like, I was calling that game, so I was doing color commentary for that game, and Carson's on the 40 going in, and they've got a streak route, and the game's either tied or they're down by 2 or something along those lines. And he hits the last up of his drop and unleashes a ball that skims the guy's helmet the defender's helmet that's still back turned right into his receiver's hands. I'm calling the game, and I jumped up out of the booth. Headset went flying. And even after the game, there's some former NFL players that were on the sideline. There's former NFL quarterbacks that said to me, I wouldn't even have thought of making that throw. It was the single best throw I've ever seen in a high school football game. And I think if you're interested in watching, I think it's play number 2 on his highlights. Because I told him, I said, let people get settled into 1. And hit him with 2.
I've heard someone close to him say, and he put it in Georgia vernacular, he says, this to me seems like Matthew Stafford's arm with Jake Fromm's head. And first of all, that's a tremendous statement. Second of all, what do you think about that? But also, is he the type of kid that can handle burdens or pressures or expectations like that?
I think that's a great analogy. The analogy I get all the time from college coaches all over with Carson is Andrew Luck. That's the first thing that pops into their head is Andrew Luck, because he's a lot more athletic than people give him credit for, just like Andrew Luck is. But I think that's an interesting analogy. I actually think, having gone up to Georgia and witnessing some of the stuff I witnessed, I think it's a perfect fit for not just Carson but for Georgia, because you're going from a guy in Jake Fromm who knows the game and is committed to Georgia, like through and through and through. He's not worried about the NFL. He's committed to Georgia, and he wants to win championships. And he's doing everything it takes, from studying to learning the game to learning his opponents. You're going to roll from that right into another one. Identical in the mind. Identical. Now, I would argue that Matt Stafford probably didn't have the juice that Carson's got, meaning like Matt Stafford could throw it a mile, still can. But when you see Matt Stafford, do you think like quick twitch, just that ball's out and on the guy? And that's the thing that Carson's got. And a credit to his receivers at Mandarin in high school, because very few could do this. Try to catch one of Carson's balls. It's on you. And so it's not even just a big arm. We want it to carry, we want it to lodge into the hands, and that's exactly what happens with his. And he can throw it 90 miles an hour, and I'm being silly there, or he can throw it 30. Like it's just, he's got arm control. And I think Stafford came in more of that, I'm just going to throw it through you every time. So I think he's a little more progressed than what Matt was coming out.
First time you saw Carson spin it, what went through your mind?
Well, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd seen him at the practice field at Providence when he was at Providence before, and I talked to his dad, and his dad said, I think my kid could be pretty good. And it was kind of like, all right, whatever. Like every dad tells me that, right? And so we actually brought him inside a booth where we're at now, and he threw 3 balls. And my first thought was, yeah, Dad, you may be understating this. This kid's got an arm that I don't know that we'll see the full extent of ever in a game. Like, there's no reason for him to throw it 100%. Arm talent perspective, he's as good as anybody I've ever worked with. So my first thought was, okay, how do we dial down the baseball influence he had in his life at the time, because he was committed to Florida as a freshman or sophomore. And so it took a lot of work. He worked really hard on that, how do I differentiate between baseball and football? And ultimately, he made the decision, I'm not going to. I'm just going to play football, which was a big decision for him. But now that you've started to see that, my initial takeaway of this guy could be really special is actually come to fruition. It's really cool to see. And it's cool to see a guy who's humble and works as hard as he does, and just see that progress every single time he comes in and works. You don't get to see that very often.